Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Madison and this is Madiswan Reads. So my life has been a tad chaotic recently. I am going to be moving back into my university in about a week, and I go to university in Boston, Massachusetts, which is about 14 hours away from where I live in Michigan. So this week has just been a crazy mess of packing and trying to fit my entire life into suitcases and boxes. And so today I am going to be taking you through all of the books that I am going to be taking back to Boston with me. I have quite the little trolley here that I'm going to be taking back, so we will just have fun chatting through these and marveling at how I'm taking way too much stuff. The very first book on my list is sort of like the white whale of my TBR at the moment, if you'll pardon my Moby Dick reference. It has been a goal of mine for the 9 months since 2021 began to read this book by the end of the year, and I've got to be honest, I'm not doing wonderfully at it, which is why I'm taking it to Boston to hopefully nudge myself into finishing it, but that is The Greatest Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. And this beauty is about 900 pages long. I've been reading it since the beginning of the year, and I am on page 295. It's like a third of the way through. But yes, it is my goal to finish this by the end of the year. I am absolutely obsessed with Sherlock Holmes stories. I love Sherlock Holmes retellings. I don't know, I feel like everyone has their niche random interests that they can't really explain, and mine is Sherlock Holmes. So hopefully I will be able to finish this by the end of the year. I'm really hoping to get into the mood for some mystery stories this fall. I think that that'll set a really good tone for these. So yeah, let's wish me luck and hope that I finish this by the end of the year. So the next book that I have is also one of my most anticipated reads of 2021, especially since I read My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry last month. I've been even more excited to read this book, and that is Anxious People by Frederick Bachmann. And essentially what this story is it follows a bank robber who has just bungled a robbery, kind of like I bungled the pronunciation of that word, but he has just completely failed at robbing a bank and finds himself in an apartment open house where he ends up taking a group of very different people hostage, and it's really just about the ridiculousness but also the different dynamics of that situation. And Bachmann's writing has not let me down yet. I mean, I've only read one of his books, but it was absolutely fantastic, so I'm super excited for this. And not to jinx myself, but I have a feeling that this could be a potential new favorite as well. So the next book that I will be hauling with me to Boston is Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. And from what I can gather, this story is following our main character, Clay, who has just taken a position at Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore. And as he continues to work there, he realizes that it's kind of an odd place where people come in and they ask for weird volumes and put in special requests. And he sort of starts to realize that the bookstore may be more than it seems. I'm so excited to read this one because I love anything set in like a bookstore or a library. I love reading books about books, so I think that this is going to be so fun, and I've heard really good things about it, so I cannot wait to get to it. Next up for the Boston trip, we have some old favorites of mine that I'm hoping to reread, and that is the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Carrie Maniscalco. And these books follow our main character, Audrey Rose, who is aspiring to be an autopsy specialist, and she works with her uncle, who is sort of in the same field. However, she's often looked down upon for the fact that she's interested in doing autopsies and even sort of solving crimes in that way, sort of like criminology. And she's kind of judged for it because it was very uncommon for a girl in this time, because the book is set in Victorian England. But anyway, Audrey Rose sort of finds herself immersed in the Jack the Ripper case, and she takes it upon herself to kind of see if she can figure out who Jack the Ripper is, and stop him. And I just absolutely love these books. So Jack the Ripper is kind of the focus of just the first book, and then it moves on to like different settings, different subjects. They're just super fun. They're all like a self-contained mystery. I love Audrey Rose as a main character. She is so spunky, and she stands up for herself, and she pursues what she wants to do in terms of like medicine and criminology, and she doesn't let anyone stand in the way of that, which I absolutely love. And then the sort of second main character in this book is Thomas Cresswell, who is, he's just so amazing. I absolutely adore his character. He's probably one of my favorite characters of all time. So I'm just super excited to revisit these. I also have not yet read the final book, Capturing the Devil, so I'm super excited to see how this ends, and I just cannot wait to get back to these. The next book that I have is actually an impulse buy that I had after reading The Vanishing Half last month. I absolutely loved that book. It was stellar. So I decided to pick up The Mothers by Brit Bennett. And I don't know too much about this actually, but from the back cover, what I can gain is that we're following Nadia, who is a 17-year-old girl. And shortly after her mother's death, she has a little romantic encounter with a 21-year-old named Luke. And this encounter results in some pretty serious consequences that she has to keep a secret from everyone around her. And this book just kind of chronicles how that event unfolds across her lifetime. And I'm so excited to read this. I absolutely adore Brit Bennett's writing. I think it is so beautiful, and I think that she just has a lot to say about a lot of different subjects. So I cannot wait to get to this one. Next up, we have possibly the book that I'm most scared to read on this list, and that is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. And if you have heard anything about this book, you know that it is sad. It is said to be just so incredibly sad, with just horrible event after horrible event happening. I don't think I've ever heard of a person who hasn't cried while reading this. And I haven't read too much into the synopsis. I don't want to know a lot about it before going in. I don't want to have like a preconceived idea of what it's going to be like. So I'm very scared to read this because it is like, it's over 700 pages and super sad. 700 pages of sadness is what I'm in for. So we'll see how this one goes. The next book that I have on my little trolley here is The Library at Mount Char by Scott Hawkins. And as I said, I love a good story with a library or a bookstore, and this sounds so insane and intriguing. Just the little blurb at the top of the dust jacket, which says, "A missing god, a library with the secrets to the universe, a woman too busy to notice her heart slipping away." Like, whew, that sounds so good. It sounds so mysterious. I absolutely love the cover, like the charred edges. It's very ominous, but also weirdly inviting. I don't know how to explain that, but that is how I feel about it. And I really just can't wait to dive into this one. I really want to know what's going on because I have no idea, but I suppose I'll find out eventually. This next book possibly wins most beautiful cover of all time for me, and that is The Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Boulay. Like, oh, I just love the play of the colors on this cover. It is just absolutely gorgeous, and the spine is so pretty as well. That's upside down. There's no right way to put it. Anyways, the spine is so pretty too, and I adore this cover. If the story is half as good as the cover, I will be satisfied. But essentially, this book follows our main character named Donis, and she is an 18-year-old member of the Ojibwe tribe. And as she has sort of been living in the reservation and building her life there, everything sort of falls apart when she witnesses a murder and is enlisted in the FBI investigation to uncover who the murderer is. And essentially, she has to go undercover with her knowledge of the reservation and her contacts within it. And it just sounds like this is going to be like a super intense and thrilling mystery. And I'm super excited to read it. Like I said, the cover is just gorgeous. I cannot get over it. And I'm so excited to see the story inside. This book is yet another one that I impulse bought after I read My Grandmother Asked You to Tell Me She's Sorry, and that is Britt Marie Was Here by Frederick Bachmann. And I picked this one up because Britt Marie is actually a character in My Grandmother Asked You to Tell Me She's Sorry, or asked me to tell you she's sorry. Yeah. I can say words. Anyway, Britt Marie is actually a character in that book, and she's a character who I had very complicated feelings about, and I honestly wasn't sure that I wanted to read a book about her, but I read the synopsis and it just sounds so good, and if it's anything like the first book, I'll be completely in love with it. And this essentially follows the character of Britt Marie after she leaves her unfaithful husband and essentially has to start over in this new town called Borg. So this is following her new life and sort of how she deals with the aftermath of her other life sort of falling apart in her grasp. And I'm just really, what's a word that's not excited? I'm really thrilled to be getting to this one. I need to get a thesaurus so that I can find other words for excited. But I can't wait to get to this one. I'm really wondering if it's going to make me cry, like the other Bachmann that I read did, but we shall see. This next book is one that I am so excited to read. I've heard nothing but good things about it, and I've just heard such great things about it. I'm super excited. And that is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. Apparently this book is peak romance. It follows our characters Josh and Lucy as they are up for the same promotion at their job, and it's supposed to be sort of like an enemies to lovers, dare I say it, sort of romance. And I've just heard amazing things about this book. I don't think I've heard a single bad thing about it, and everyone that I've seen absolutely adores it, and I cannot wait to get to it. I love a good romance, and this one seems like it may be the best of them all, so we'll see how it goes. This next book is yet another one that I have been hearing so much buzz about, and that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've heard incredible things about this book. Everyone seems to be raving about it. My friend just texted me the other night and asked me if I had read it because she was sobbing when she reached the end. And this book follows Evelyn Hugo, who is a Hollywood starlet, and this is essentially her telling the tale of her 7 husbands and her life through them. And it's really cool because the book is actually broken into like which of the 7 husbands she's going to be talking about. So I really like that it's sectioned like that. I think that it is a super interesting way to break up a book, and I've just heard that this is so good and it's heartbreaking. I've never read a Taylor Jenkins Reid before, but I've heard really good things about her writing, so I just cannot wait to get this one. I am super thrilled, and I feel like I really need to get in on the hype before it's too late. So the next book that I have to take is a classic that I've been meaning to get to for the longest time, and that is Emma by Jane Austen. And firstly, this cover is so pretty. I just love this edition with all of the people dancing and all of the outfits. I just think it is so gorgeous. And excuse me for saying this, but I actually don't know the exact plot of Emma. I'm going to assume that it follows a main character named Emma. I feel like that's a very safe assumption to make. But I've also heard that a lot of Jane Austen's novels are quite similar in their setup and like the huge number of characters that they have, and they all focus around women sort of coming out into the world of like marriage and romance. So I absolutely adored Pride and Prejudice. It's one of my favorite books of all time. So I'm guessing that I'm really, really gonna love Emma. And right after I read it, I'm going to watch the new movie with Anya Taylor-Joy because it looks so wonderful. One thing that they do not tell you about book carts is that it's incredibly difficult to get books onto the second shelf. So you have to like tip them in there and shove them in there, and I don't like shoving my books anywhere or bending the corners. So just a quick PSA, if you decide to buy a book trolley, you will have to shove your books. The next book that I have is yet another set of classics that I've been meaning to read, and that is A Tale of Two Cities and Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. And once again, I just absolutely love this edition. I think that the red foiling on the front is so pretty, and I was so happy to find two of Charles Dickens' books, especially the ones that I most wanted to read, in one edition. However, I don't know if I'm like fooling myself by trying to take these classics out to my apartment in Boston while I'm in 2 English classes with like 8 assigned books apiece. I really don't know if I'm just trying to trick myself into thinking that I'll be able to have the brain power to read these classics, but we shall see. Once again, I don't know too much about A Tale of Two Cities or Great Expectations. I know a few of the character names, weirdly enough, but I don't really know the plot of either of them. And I kind of like to keep it that way. I don't want to go in knowing too much or knowing exactly how everything's going to play out beforehand. So yeah, we'll see if I make it to this one, honestly. I'm going to level with you. We'll see how it goes. The next set of books that I have is actually a duology, and that is Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. So from the looks of these are very like complex fantasy stories. Again, I've heard really good things about both of these. Quite a few people that I've seen on BookTube mark these as some of their favorite books. So I'm really excited to see what I think of them. The synopsis seems quite complex. It's very hard for me to condense without knowing the story inside and out, but it says, Laszlo Strange, war orphan and junior librarian, has been obsessed with the mythic lost city of Weep for as long as he can remember, but it would take someone bolder than he to cross half the world in search of it. Then a stunning opportunity presents itself in the person of a hero called the Godslayer and a band of legendary warriors, and he has to seize his chance or lose his dream forever. Right off the bat, we've got a lot going on. So I'm super excited to just sort of unravel this and see what all the fuss is about and see what's going on with it. The next book that I have sounds like it is going to be the perfect read for going back to college in the fall, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. And essentially this story follows Alex Stern, who is an unlikely member of Yale's freshman class. Essentially, Alex gets into a bargain after she is almost the victim of a murder, and she enters this bargain and she becomes a student at Yale as a result of the bargain. However, there are a lot of darker things going on than she sees on the surface. It sounds like there's a lot of chit-chat of secret societies and the rich and powerful. So this sounds very, very dark academia, and I'm super excited to get into it. It sounds like the perfect read to have while at college. I'll probably have to go sit in my college's library and have a moment with this book in the fall, probably around October, you know, heighten the spookiness. But yeah, I'm super excited to get into this one. Dark academia isn't something that I've really been able to break into yet. I've wanted to read it for a long time, but I've never actually picked up a book that sort of falls into the category of dark academia, so I'm super excited to try this one out and see what happens. Alright, so the next book that I have to haul to Boston is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell? I'm not really sure which. But Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. And this book follows two magicians, Mr. Norrell and Jonathan Strange, who sort of team up as their powers grow, and they actually take on France in the war against France in 1806. So it sounds like there's going to be a bit of historical context mixed in with the magical element. It sounds like the stakes are going to be very high in the story, and I'm hoping that it's also a story about just like their friendship or their relationship, and their dynamic with each other as two magicians. It also looks very spooky, like the cover is giving me very spooky vibes, so maybe I'll have to pick this one up around October as well. Alright folks, we are nearing the end of this little book transportation video thing. I don't know, words. But the second to last book that I have is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. As you all know from my last couple of videos, I absolutely loved the Villains duology with Vicious and Vengeful by V.E. Schwab, so I just decided I might as well pick up one of her other series. The cover just draws me in. I love the red and the white and the black, and just the simplistic and stark nature of it. I think it's so cool. And once again, I don't know too much about this story, and I'd honestly like to keep it that way because going into Vicious, I didn't know very much either, so I was pleasantly surprised about the plot and sort of the vibe of the entire thing. So I think I'm going to keep it that way. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting to this one because I think that I'm definitely becoming a fan of V.E. Schwab's writing, and just her plot devices and her characters, so we'll see if that continues on in the Darker Shade of Magic series. And last, but certainly not least, is the chunkiest book of them all, The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. Again, I may be falling into the pit of taking out a bunch of classics that I'm not going to read, but I've had my eye on this one for a very long time and I've wanted to read it. So this follows our main character, Edward, who is just about to marry the love of his life. He's happy, he's in a great position, and then all of a sudden he is framed and thrown into prison for 14 years. So I'm guessing that this is kind of his revenge story. I've heard that it's one of the greatest revenge stories of all time. And yeah, it sounds very dark, which I'm super excited for. I'm excited to see where this goes, and we'll see if I make it through all like 600 pages of this in the midst of all my classes. But we'll see how it goes again. And that is all for me. I think I have a grand total of 22 books that I'm going to be taking on the 14-hour car journey with me back to Boston, but I'm super excited to get to all of these, and I'm excited to have my handy-dandy little book trolley to take out as well. Thank you all so much for being here today. Please like, subscribe, leave me a comment down below and let me know if you've read any of these, or if you're just as excited about any of them as I am. Just let me know your thoughts and feelings. I would love to hear them. And with that, I will bid you adieu. I still have a ton of packing to finish. My room is embarrassingly dirty, so I have to go figure that out. But hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!